Farlost, Fog of War. Part 2. (2231) Minor Asteroid Republic, Olin. Population 14,048 souls. Outer reaches of the Winter Belt.
"I'm not here for me, Ellie," Peter Rix pleaded, sitting 2 spaces away on Hara Otana's right at the big round table at the front of the council chamber. "I'm here for our workers."
3 spaces to the left, Ellie Dutton writhed in her seat.
"Your workers are more prosperous than anyone else on this rock."
2 of her black tentacles shot out when Rix leaned back and crossed his arms.
"I'm not saying they don't deserve it. Working the docks is hard, I know, but Dutton Haulage is paying its fair share, more even."
"You pay the same as everyone else," Rix reminded the tumbler, who was living up to her species' colloquial human name. Her spherical exoskeleton rolled from side to side on her multi-species adaptable seat. The muscles in her dozens of brown and black mottled tentacles were contracted, tight and long and thin, waving like a tumbleweed tossed by the wind of some desert on long-lost Earth.
"Yes, the same. But 6 or more of the ships on your dock are Dutton's year in and year out."
"Olin sets the rates," Rix said, attempting to deflect Ellie's real argument. Ellie chuckled, and a tentacle waved at him tauntingly.
Yes, but you get to charge a margin on top."
"The cost is the same for everyone," Rix said, and turned back to Hara. "Upkeep on the docks is constant, and we have to break our backs to keep airlocks up to code." His eyes darted back towards Ellie. "And we all know what it costs to tie up conveyors and loaders when a skipper demands a faster turnaround." Ellie's fingers stopped wagging. "I do know that, Peter. And Dutton ships have always paid dock workers through thick and thin. We practically kept your father in business after the push when nobody had enough to trade. Lately, though, it seems we're paying more, and our ships are still taking longer to get back out there. It was easier for Pops and my uncles to turn you around when we only had 7 bays and you only had 4 ships. My sisters and we've got to work our teams twice as hard to keep up with costs and demand." "But you do keep up," said the mayor, head swiveling between them. "2 family businesses that are making life better for everyone spinning inside this rock. That's what Olin is about. You both have families here, yes? You both want to see your loved ones and neighbors prosper, yes?" "My family lives on our ships," Ellie huffed. Her beak poked out of the webbing, insulating it to nervously chew on one of the hexagonal holes in her exoskeleton. She was feeling threatened, Hara knew, so she changed her approach. "Jake and all my kids spend most of their lives living aboard ship, too. They're out there right now, remote servicing mining ships and habitats. But just like your wife, Dana, and your brood, they still call Olin home port." "Our family doesn't own a ship anymore," Rix reminded them. "Everything we have is invested in that dock." He kept his tone light, but Hara knew his frustration was building. Had to sell the family home, too. That's what it costs us to keep our contracts and expand the docks. Peter nodded at Hara. "No offense, Mayor. The council splits costs 50-50, of course." He looked back at Ellie. "To ensure anyone who berths a ship, 1 like the Otanas, or 16 like Dutton Haulage, knows we'll keep them flying at a fair price. I'm not gouging anyone, but I have more people than ever feeding their families on rates our ship owners pay." Ellie had the good sense to still her tentacles and her mouth at that. It was time to change things up. "I know I'm from away," Hara said gently. "Barely," Ellie said, reaching a tentacle across the table and slapping Hara's hand lightly. 10 years from refugee to mayor, and I voted for you both times." "Still from away," Rix teased, then shrugged. "And you know I voted for you." "Yes," Hara said. "Olin took me in after the push, and you and your neighbors looked out for me ever since. Just like Olin looks out for your families. Our kids went to school together 2 levels down. Peter, My Philip learned suit drills with you, and with your Sarah, Ellie. She's living here full-time again, yes? Carrie's back too, Ellie admitted. She was getting tense, looking for a way out, and knowing this contract negotiation was approaching its end. Hara dialed her mayor smile back up to full. I know you want to keep giving back to Olin like she gave to you, like she's doing for Sarah and Carrie, like she'll give back to Sarah's little one too. She'll be your third grandchild, yes? A joyful little caw and beak snap escaped Ellie's business poker face. I was still in elementary school when the guard made the push, Rix said, but I remember how my folks worked around the clock to keep your ships fueled and calibrated. Rix lowered his voice, even though the three were alone in the room. And take your IOU to do it, too. Hara winced. Not now, Peter, she thought. All Ellie's tentacles retracted a little inside her exoskeleton, the tumbler equivalent of crossing her arms defensively. A debt we paid with interest. The Dutton clan did our part before, during, and after the push. Your father kept our sensors calibrated, sure. Your uncles parted with reaction mass when it was dear, but it was me and mine that risked triggering mines and attack drones the guard dogs left behind. And we did it to feed your families. Hera seized those words. Exactly. It took all of us to make Olin whole again. I haven't been here as long as you two, Jake, and I only settled here after the push. Hera took a breath, recalling the days she and Jake literally carved a new home here out of Olin's solid rock. Back then it felt like she was carving room in her own skull the same way, taking her mind and body back, piece by piece. Hera kept going. Now, Olin's dock is the pride of this side of the belt because of Peter, his sisters, his parents, and their parents, who anchored that big, beautiful docking needle on top of Olin long before we were gleams in anybody's eye. Neither Peter nor Ellie were immune to the nostalgia, and both laughed with Hannah. And Ellie. The Duttons fly 16 ships now because of a long record of being good to their word and getting things shipped fast. Shipped fast and ship-shape, Ellie said, high-fiving two of her own tentacles above her head as she finished the Dutton haulage slogan. And Peter's family works day and night to make that happen, don't they, Ellie? Hera purred. We all have to keep building this dusty old rock. Your kids came back to Olin to raise a family because we all pitched in together. Peter chewed his lips. I just want to keep my people working, Ellie. You're taking more long-haul runs now, but your priority berth contracts leave empty slots for longer and longer periods. We just can't afford to reserve airlocks like that anymore. I know, Peter, Ellie admitted, but... Hera could hear genuine embarrassment and knew they were getting down to what kept Ellie's tentacles twitching at night. But if we give away our priority berths, that's exactly when we'll need one. Dutton's reputation is only as good as our last on-time delivery. If we miss even one deadline... There was a chime in the air. Hera winced and waved a hand to silence the tone. Her assistant knew better. She spoke up to fill the sudden silence. You both have real worries here. Peter wants to keep his workers paid and safe, their families fed. Ellie, you want to ensure you keep winning bids, take care of your family. She stared hard across the table at Peter. Perhaps this could be settled with a handshake amendment? Peter pressed his lips together, thinking, and then nodded. Ellie, you have my word, and I speak for my sisters, too. If you let us remove the priority berth clause, we promise you will always find a hard seal at the dock when you really need it. Ellie's tentacles wavered along with her resolve. Hera leaned in towards Ellie. And if he needs help making that happen, ping me. Worst comes to worst, we can send Olin's one and only police/border patrol/emergency response craft out for readiness drills and free their slot up. Ellie's beak again peeked out from one of the hexagonal slots in her exoskeleton. You do that? Hera nodded. The tumbler's one visible eye peered at the mayor, then over to Rix. A handshake deal? Peter looked at Hara and back to Ellie. He nodded. Handshake deal. Ellie's tentacles made good-natured snapping sounds. Yes! Hara bumped the desk with her fist. All in for Allin? Both Ellie and Rix chuckled, hearing the mayor roll out her election slogan. All in for Allin. They both laughed back. Good, Hara sighed theatrically. Now go on, shake. Rick's smile was genuine as he gave Ellie his hand. She curled a tentacle through his palm and around his wrist to shake. You won't regret this, either of you, Hara promised. I'm happy we could get past this, Ellie confessed, her old chirpy self again, now the ugly business was behind them. Our workers will be too, Peter said. After the handshake, he unzipped a pocket on the hip of his ship suit and pulled out 3 little wooden figures. He offered them to Ellie. For Sarah's little one. Peter! Ellie cooed over the lovely little wooden figures. You are so talented. She took the 3 elegantly carved little wooden figurines, 1 human, 1 tumbler, and 1 Skanen. Oh, the Skanen even has eye stalks and claws. Peter Rix was known across Allin for his carving. His figurines were always beautiful, detailed, and cleverly articulated with fine elastics and wires. Ellie began posing them. Wherever do you find the wood? Rix winked at Hara. Friends in high places. Smiling, Hara finally looked at the hollow flickering just above the surface of the round council table. The incoming call light was red, not green. She waved her hand in the air to take the call. Yes, Sam? It wasn't her assistant, Sam, who answered. This is Traffic Comms Officer Dinesh. We got a flagged ship asking to dock. She wondered if it was a dirty engine core that had traffic sounding so uptight, or another mooring subsidy request. Maybe an arrest warrant Allin's alliances with neighboring Winterbelt states would oblige her to charge her officers to enforce. Hara rubbed her head, wondering what kind of headache she was trading in for the contract spat. Flagged with what? Silence stretched before the Traffic Comms officer answered. Skull and crossbones. Across the table, Ella bounced out of her chair. Rick snapped his head around, eyes wide. Call the chief, launch the gunboat, and do not let them dock, Hara said, her voice hard. I'm on my way.